Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. Joining us on the phones this morning, Deputy Press Secretary for the RNC, Mike Joyce, joining us once again here on the Chad Hasty Show. Mike, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Of course, the Mueller Report is the big news. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you, or the reason why we wanted to have you on the program today. I look at this not only as a victory for the president, but a victory really for the American people, because it shows that there was not collusion, that we had a fair election here in the United States. And it seems like to me, Mike, the Democrats aren't too happy that we had a fair election in the United States. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. You know, for years, Democrats and many in the media promised us there was collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. They were proven totally wrong, and President Trump has been completely exonerated. And
what should this mean going forward, and what will it mean, you think, going forward for the president, for the Republican Party as we move forward towards 2020?
Sure. You know, I think now that the investigation has come to a close, Democrats need to move on and start getting to work for the American people. But we all know they're not going to. They've already started moving the goalposts, and that's because they want to take down President Trump at all costs. And when the Attorney General Barr notes that the special counsel's investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its effort to influence the 2016 presidential election, that's as definitive as it gets. And the fact that they're already trying to move the goalposts, keep dragging this thing out, that just says to me that they know they can't beat President Trump on policy. His America First policies have benefited Texans and every other American across this country, and they know that their policies don't hold merit compared to his. You know, you look at record low unemployment, every economic indicator of our economy right now, the defeat of ISIS, NAFTA's renegotiated USMCA deal. They can't beat him on those policies, and that's why they're going to keep pushing this phony narrative.
When it comes to this, the obstruction of justice, it seems like that's what the Democrats are zeroing in on in this, and that Mueller, all the headlines say Mueller punted on the obstruction of justice. I don't think it was ever his decision to say one way or the other whether there was a final judgment on obstruction of justice. In my opinion, you kind of leave that up to the Attorney General. How do you look at this, and what is the reaction, from you and the RNC towards the Democrats hanging their hats on this obstruction of justice issue?
Yeah, well, Chad, let me just ask you kind of a silly question, but who in their right mind would obstruct for a crime that they didn't commit? And
right.
Why would anyone do anything like that? And they just won't let it go. And that's simply because they refuse to accept the results of the special counsel's investigation, and they refuse to accept the results of the 2016 election.
You know, I actually welcome Democrats to keep moving forward with this, because I think the longer they do, the more and more people look at this and go, you're throwing a Hail Mary. You're throwing a Hail Mary, and you're not Aaron Rodgers. You're throwing a Hail Mary, and you're not very good at it. And I think it's going to backfire on the Democrats. And how big of a chance is it that this backfires on the Democrats if they continue to hold hearings on this, and if they even try to move forward? I know the House Speaker has said that she doesn't want to move forward on impeachment, but there are other Democrats who want to. And there's a large base of Democrat voters who want impeachment hearings based on the fact that they just don't like the president.
Right. Well, Rashida Tlaib is still leading an impeachment movement up in Michigan, working with an organization, Credo Mobile Action, who also attacks the Holocaust Museum. I'll save that for another day. But, yeah, they're going to continue with this. You know, Adam Schiff over the past 2 years said there's clear evidence of an attempt to collude. Eric Swalwell said we saw strong evidence of collusion. Jerry Nadler said we know there was collusion. Well, now we know there was no collusion. And, yeah, they're going to alienate the American people, because when you go vote in 2020, a lot of folks are going to be asking themselves, am I better off now than I was 4 years ago? And that answer is a resounding yes. And they know that the American people see President Trump's America First policies are benefiting them. They like the money in their pocket from tax reform. They like the new NAFTA deal, et cetera. So, yeah, this is a losing message going into 2020, and they're going to have a lot of issues trying to keep pushing this going forward.
Whose job is it? There was a story out this morning from Politico, and it was basically saying that, Trump should not attack the media, Trump should not attack Democrats, that he's not even trying to unite the country right now. He's not trying to unite everyone and heal the country. The Democrats aren't doing that either, and the author of the Politico piece did not point that out. Whose job is it right now to try and unite people? And when does that process need to start, if it does need to start?
Sure. Well, I think you need to go back and look at the past 2 years. Major media outlets like Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, they published roughly 4,000 stories on the Mueller investigation. That's more than 6 per day. These outlets prioritized the Mueller investigation over historic achievements like the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the USMCA trade agreement. WAPO wrote 192 more stories concerning the Russia investigation than they have regarding the defeat of ISIS, which should have been big news over the weekend, but of course the Mueller report kind of took over. But yeah, I mean, I think the media should be held accountable here, and I think we know that President Trump and supporters of President Trump will hold the media accountable for this, and they deserve to apologize for the political vendetta they've launched and for the misinformation campaign they've been pushing against this president over the past 2 years.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that it's overall what we saw this weekend. It's good news for the president. It's good news for the American people. It should be something that is celebrated. Sadly, among many in the media, it won't be celebrated. But good news for the president. Good news for the RNC moving forward. Mike Joyce, Deputy Press Secretary for the RNC. Anything else you want to add?
No, all I can say is I'm glad I listened to your Periscope before the tournament because Tech got a big win yesterday, and I think they'll keep moving into the Final Four.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us today. We'll visit with you down the road.
Thanks for having me.
That's Mike Joyce, Deputy Press Secretary of the GOP.